Hey, what's up everyone? I'm out here at the range today. I've got a new scope, new rifle set up, and it's time to sight in. Now, I know that can be a pain for a lot of people, but my method is super simple, super efficient, and we'll get it done with just these 3 shots. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bore sight this rifle. I've got a target out at 25 yards. I'm gonna pull the bolt out, and then I'm gonna look through the barrel and center the bullseye in the center of the barrel. Then with the rifle supported without moving it, I'm gonna look through the scope and adjust the crosshairs to the center of the bullseye. When I'm bore sighting, the first thing I do is I line my eye with what looks like the center of the stock, the center of what would be the barrel. I generally keep my eye below so I can't actually see through the barrel, and then I slowly raise my head up to where that circle becomes like a perfect concentric circle with the action and the end of the barrel, where they look definitely lined up there, so I know my eye is looking straight through. And now I move the rifle and adjust it to the center of the bullseye. Once I do that, then I'm gonna just back away, leave the rifle set, and we'll adjust the scope. That looks solid there. Got it right in the center. Now I'm going to adjust the scope. So when I do this, I make sure I don't bump the rifle, and you can always readjust it if you do. I try to get where my eye might be, and this is just to get it close. Now, while looking through, I move my scope to the spot where I'm putting the crosshair on the bullseye. So I'm matching the center of the barrel to the center of the scope. So I want the crosshair to be on the bullseye, which is centered in the barrel. Verify it. So now as I'm looking, I can tell that I'm a little bit left. I was a little low, and now I'll move my left and right. I'll move my windage. Yep. Cool. When you're doing this, you don't even need to pay attention to the up, down, left, right, because you're looking through the scope and you're moving the crosshair, watching it track to the position you want it. So I'm tracking the crosshairs over to the bullseye because the bullseye is lined up in the center of the barrel. Now that I think I've got it bore sighted, so I like to verify it a few times. I'll move the gun off of the target, re-center it, and then check the scope. Yeah, it looks good. So now we're gonna go live. I'm gonna load up. Okay, ears on. What I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna aim for the center of the bullseye, and then we'll make our adjustments after that shot. So the thought is, I'll kind of tell you what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shoot for the bullseye, and then I'm assuming that bullet's not, even with the bore sighting, is not gonna be right on unless I get super lucky, which I kind of hope for intents and purposes of showcasing this. I didn't bore sight it too well, but I hope I bore sight it well enough to hit the paper. So the first shot you're gonna put on the bullseye, I like to use the center because you got a little bit of high, low, whatever. And then we're gonna match the crosshair to where that bullet hit. And that's just gonna put us dead on at 25 yards. Just as a little side note, shooting off of these type of rests is great. You know, kind of takes off the impact, is steady. I prefer to use some kind of bipod or bags a lot of time, but if you can, you know, take your stock off of the back plate because otherwise your cheek weld isn't going to be the same. So guys will sight it in these sleds and then they go to hunt and it's a little bit different. You want to make sure your cheek is in the same place every time. The rifle's on your shoulder in the same place every time. And that's just going to really improve consistency and accuracy. When it comes to any kind of shooting, rifle shooting, bow shooting, whatever, you're looking for repeatable consistency. So everything has to be the same. Your eye has to be on the cheek weld the same. You have to be looking down the scope the same. You want your hand in the same place and the same pressure on the trigger. If you do everything the same with a good rifle, with good ammunition, the bullet should be fairly close to where you want it, or the same. And that's how you get good groups. Well, I bore sighted it too well. But that's what you want. All right, so my first shot actually happened to be pretty close to where I wanted it. I'm looking through the scope now, and I see that It's on the left edge of the bull, but I'm still not exactly where I want it. So I'm gonna wanna move that over. So what I'll do is I'll put the crosshair where I was aiming, center of the bullseye. And then I move my crosshair to match the hole of the bullet that I shot. So what that does is that then aligns everything. So where the bullet's flying with the scope. So instead of looking at where I hit and adjusting it over, I'm gonna be looking through the scope while I'm adjusting, while it's locked off and steady, and I'm gonna move the crosshair from where I was aiming to the point of impact. If you want your rifle sighted in for dead on at 100, you wanna be generally about an inch low at 25 yards. I like to sight my rifles in for 200 yards, so I always try to get it pretty much dead on at 25, and then I'll go prove it out at 100, see where it impacts, and it might be pretty close to where I want it to be dead on for 200. So on this, let's see, we've got terminal ascent here. Just based on what the box is saying, we want to be 1.8 inches high at 100 yards for this 6.5 to be dead on at 200. So I think that if we're pretty much close to right on at 25, we'll go shoot it at 100 and we'll see where it impacts. I think that's a pretty good starting point. I really like to sight my rifles in for dead on at 200, and of course we'll prove it out at 200 as well. But for the first shot, we're gonna now adjust, get this dead on at 25. We're gonna move the target out to 100. We're gonna take another shot, and then we'll make our final adjustment. And our 3 shots should be good to go. All right, I just moved the target out to 100 yards. I'm gonna take my second shot and see where we impact. All right, so as long as you feel like you made a good shot, you can make that adjustment. That shot felt good. It's a lot higher than I was expecting, but we're gonna go with it. We're gonna adjust it. It's 5 inches high right, or let's see, 1, 2, 4 inches high right now. So I'm gonna drop it down to that 1.8 inches. So I'm just gonna bring it down, just under 2 inches. So now I can just make my adjustments. It's 100 yards, so I know that I've got 1 click is a 1/4 inch. I'm gonna bring it down about 8 clicks. Got 1 more, 2 more for good measure. And then I'm gonna go 4 clicks right. Okay, there we go. Give it a little tap for good luck. Now I'm gonna take my final shot, and hopefully it should be nestled in there just around 2 inches high at 100 yards. There it is. All right, that third shot was money. Exactly where I wanted it. I wanted to be right around 1.8 inches high at 100 yards. It looks like it's right in there, you know, maybe a 1/4 inch left, but I think that's pretty good. What I would do now is I would just shoot a group just to get that group, but essentially what we did, we took a new gun, put a scope on it, bore sighted it at 25 yards, took a shot, using tracking through the scope, readjusted to get that right on at 25. Then we pushed that target out to 100, took a shot. It was high, so then we adjusted from there, and our third shot was right in where we want it to be. 3 shots down, and that rifle's sighted in. All the rest of these are for fun time. We can push this target out to 200 yards. We can make some maybe minute adjustments once we've got more comfort with this rifle. We send some more rounds downrange, get some groups, but it's an easy way not to be chasing bullets on paper just to get to that point where you want it, that initial sight in.